she screamed as the ambulance doors burst open beneath the crashing storm. Move, move. She's in labor. Rain poured violently across the hospital entrance while paramedics rushed Nadia through the hallway on a stretcher. Her fingers gripped the sides weakly as another sharp pain ripped through her body. Please, she cried breathlessly. My baby. Machines beeped wildly beside her. 39 weeks pregnant, one paramedic shouted. Possible placental abruption. Blood pressure dropping fast. Doctors and nurses immediately surrounded her. Get the oar ready now. Nadia let out another painful scream as they pushed her toward emergency surgery. Then suddenly, where's the husband? A nurse asked. At that exact moment, Ethan stormed through the hospital doors wearing an expensive black suit already soaked from the rain. Nadia, he shouted while running closer. But the moment he reached the stretcher, his first words made the entire hallway go silent. The baby, Ethan asked nervously. Will the baby survive? Dr. Elena slowly looked up at him. Not. Is my wife okay? Not. Can I see her? The baby. Only the baby. Nurse Kiera exchanged an uncomfortable glance with the doctor. Nadia weakly reached for Ethan's hand. Ethan. Tears rolled down her cheeks. Please don't leave me. For one brief second, Ethan looked almost guilty. Almost. Dr. Elena spoke quickly. She's in critical condition. We need emergency surgery immediately. Severe blood loss. If complications increase during surgery, we may have to prioritize stabilizing the baby first. Nadia's terrified eyes widened. No, she whispered weakly. Dr. Elena handed Ethan a consent form. You need to sign this now. Ethan stared at the papers silently. Nadia's breathing became shakier. Ethan, she cried softly. Please, tell them to save me. The hallway fell silent except for the sound of rain hitting the windows. Then Ethan finally grabbed the pen and signed the form. Coldly, without even looking at her. Nadia's face broke completely, and before she could say another word, the doctors rushed her into the operating room. Prep for surgery. Blood pressure falling. Move. Nadia disappeared through the operating room doors while Ethan stood frozen outside. Then his phone vibrated. One message. Vanessa. Everything ready. Don't be late, smiley face. Ethan stared at the text for several seconds, then slowly locked his phone. Nurse Kiera watched him carefully. Something felt wrong. Very wrong. Inside the operating room, Nadia cried as doctors worked frantically around her. We're losing her pressure. More blood now. Come on, Nadia, stay with us. Dr. Elena shouted. Nadia's vision blurred. Her voice trembled weakly. My husband. Dr. Elena looked at her sadly. But before she could answer, Nadia blacked out. At the same moment across town, Vanessa stood in front of a mirror inside a luxury hotel suite while makeup artists adjusted her wedding veil. You look stunning, one woman said. Vanessa smiled proudly. I know. Her phone rang. Ethan. Well, Vanessa asked immediately. She's in surgery, Ethan replied quietly. Vanessa's expression darkened slightly. And they said things don't look good. For a second, silence filled the room. Then Vanessa slowly smiled. Then tonight changes everything. Meanwhile, inside the hospital, Dr. Elena fought desperately to save Nadia's life. Pulse dropping. Come on. Suddenly, a loud cry filled the room. The baby. He's breathing. Nurse Kiera shouted emotionally. But Nadia remained unconscious. Dr. Elena immediately turned serious again. No, 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 stay with me. Minutes passed. Finally, Nadia's pulse stabilized. Dr. Elena exhaled heavily. She made it. Outside the hospital, Ethan adjusted his tie in the reflection of his car window. His phone rang again. Dr. Elena. Ethan answered quickly. Doctor. She survived surgery, Dr. Elena said. Ethan's face instantly dropped. What? The baby survived too. Silence. Pure silence. Finally, Ethan forced a fake, relieved tone. That's good news. But his expression said otherwise. Inside the luxury suite, Vanessa noticed his face immediately when he arrived. What happened? Ethan loosened his tie. She survived. Vanessa's smile vanished completely. What do you mean she survived? She's alive. Vanessa turned away angrily. This changes everything. Ethan grabbed her arm. No. Listen to me carefully. Nadia is weak. She barely made it. The doctors aren't even sure how long recovery will take. Vanessa folded her arms. And what if she tells everyone about us? She won't. How do you know? Ethan hesitated. Because deep down, he knew Nadia loved him enough to protect him no matter what. That was exactly why he had stayed with her for so long. Not because he loved her, but because she made loving him easy. Meanwhile, back at the hospital, Nadia slowly opened her eyes. The room felt blurry, quiet, empty. She turned weakly toward the side of the bed. No Ethan, no flowers, no visitors, only the sound of rain outside. Then Nurse Kiera entered carrying the baby carefully. The moment Nadia saw her son, tears instantly filled her eyes. "My baby," she whispered emotionally. "He's healthy," Kiera smiled softly. "A strong little fighter." Nadia held her son against her chest while crying silently. Then she finally asked the question she had been afraid to ask. "Where's Ethan?" The room suddenly became awkwardly quiet. Kiera looked away. Nadia's heart slowly sank. "What happened?" she whispered. Before Kiera could answer, voices echoed from the television mounted inside the room. "Business Air Ethan Cole seen tonight at the Grand Royale Hotel." Nadia slowly turned toward the screen and froze. Ethan stood smiling at a wedding altar, beside Vanessa, her best friend. Nadia's entire body went cold. "No," she whispered. The television continued. The private ceremony shocked many guests due to its sudden announcement. Nadia stared at the screen like her soul had left her body. Vanessa smiled proudly while Ethan placed the ring on her finger. At the exact same moment, Nadia held his newborn son alone in a hospital bed. The pain hit so hard she could barely breathe. "No," she cried again. "No, no." Kiera immediately rushed toward her. "Nadia, please calm down. He told me he was handling business meetings." Nadia sobbed violently. He said he loved me." Her hands shook uncontrollably. Tears poured endlessly down her face. Then suddenly another memory hit her. Years earlier, a tiny coffee shop downtown. Ethan sitting alone staring hopelessly at unpaid bills. Nadia walking over quietly. "You've been staring at those papers for 2 hours," she said gently. Ethan looked embarrassed. "You noticed? You look like someone carrying the world." He laughed bitterly. "Maybe I am. That was how it started." Back then, Ethan had nothing. No money, no power, no success, just dreams. And Nadia had believed every single one of them. If you're already feeling angry for Nadia, don't forget to like the video and comment below what Ethan truly deserves for this betrayal, because this story is only getting started. Nadia had fallen in love with Ethan long before the expensive suits, luxury cars, and billion-dollar company existed. Back then, he was just a frustrated young man with impossible dreams and empty pockets. But every time he wanted to give up, Nadia stood beside him. "You're going to succeed one day," she used to tell him while handing him coffee late at night. Ethan would smile weakly. "And if I fail, then I'll still be here." Those words stayed with him for years. At first, Ethan genuinely cared for her. Or at least Nadia believed he did. They spent nights eating cheap noodles inside her tiny apartment while discussing the future. One rainy evening, Ethan stared at her quietly. "When I make it," he promised softly, "I'll give you the world." Nadia smiled. "You already are." But what Nadia never knew was that Ethan had already met Vanessa before their wedding. Beautiful, elegant, rich, everything Ethan's mother wanted. Vanessa came from one of the wealthiest families in the city, and Ethan's mother instantly adored her. "She belongs beside you," his mother constantly repeated. Not Nadia. Never Nadia. The hatred began slowly after Ethan's company started growing, especially after his first major business deal succeeded. One night, during dinner inside the Cole mansion, Nadia carefully served food while Ethan's mother watched her with disgust. "You're holding the spoon incorrectly," she snapped coldly. Nadia immediately apologized. "I'm sorry, Mrs. Cole." Vanessa sat nearby sipping wine while hiding a smirk. Ethan stayed silent. Always silent. Another guest laughed softly. "She acts more like hired staff than a daughter-in-law." The table burst into quiet laughter. Nadia forced a painful smile while lowering her eyes. That night, she cried alone in the bathroom while hearing music and laughter downstairs. But even then, she defended Ethan. "He's under pressure," she whispered to herself. "He'll change." But he never did. Weeks later, during Ethan's company celebration party, the humiliation became worse. The mansion overflowed with wealthy guests wearing designer clothes and diamonds. Meanwhile, Nadia stood in the kitchen helping servers carry trays because Ethan's mother claimed they were short-staffed. Vanessa walked elegantly through the ballroom, greeting guests like she already owned the place. One woman suddenly stopped Nadia near the staircase. "Oh, good," the woman said carelessly while handing her an empty champagne glass. Can you refill this? Before Nadia could respond, Vanessa stepped closer with fake concern. Oh no, Vanessa laughed lightly. She's not staff. The woman looked embarrassed. I'm sorry. Vanessa smiled sweetly. It's understandable. Several people nearby laughed quietly. Nadia stood frozen, with humiliation burning across her face. Then Ethan walked into the ballroom. For 1 second, Nadia thought he would defend her. Instead, he simply adjusted his tie and walked toward Vanessa. His mother smiled proudly. That night, Nadia finally confronted him. Why didn't you say anything? She asked tearfully inside their bedroom. Ethan looked exhausted. Not tonight, Nadia. They humiliated me. You're overreacting. Nadia stared at him in disbelief. Your mother treats me like trash. Ethan sighed heavily. She just wants what's best for me. The words hit Nadia like a slap. What does that mean? Ethan looked away. Nothing. But Nadia understood. His silence always said more than his words. Months later, Nadia discovered she was pregnant. She had been so nervous holding the test in her hands that she almost cried before even telling him. But for the first time in months, Ethan actually smiled. A baby, he repeated softly. Nadia nodded emotionally. We're going to be parents. For a moment, she believed everything would finally change. She imagined family dinners, a happy child, a peaceful home, a husband who finally chose her completely. But Ethan's mother reacted differently. A child won't fix this marriage, she said coldly during dinner. Nadia lowered her eyes silently. Vanessa sat beside Ethan wearing a satisfied expression. Mrs. Cole continued. You married beneath your level, Ethan. Mother, Ethan warned quietly. No, she interrupted sharply. You need someone who can elevate this family, not burden it. Nadia's chest tightened painfully. Vanessa suddenly spoke gently. Nadia is trying her best. The fake kindness made it even worse. Mrs. Cole laughed bitterly. Trying isn't enough. That same night, Ethan stood alone on the balcony drinking whiskey while Vanessa approached him slowly. You look miserable, she said softly. Ethan laughed humorlessly. You have no idea. Vanessa touched his arm carefully. You don't have to live like this forever. Ethan looked at her. You think it's that easy? Vanessa stepped closer. You deserve more than obligation. Those words stayed in Ethan's mind. Because deep down, obligation was exactly how he saw Nadia. Not love. Not passion. Duty. Weeks later, Nadia accidentally overheard an argument between Ethan and his mother. You're wasting your life. Mrs. Cole snapped angrily. She's my wife. She's a mistake. Nadia froze outside the study door. Mrs. Cole continued viciously. Vanessa is the woman this family needs. Powerful, educated, connected. And Nadia? Ethan asked quietly. A painful silence followed. Then his mother answered. Nadia was useful. That's all. Nadia felt her heart crack completely. Useful? Was that truly all she had ever been to them? Suddenly, Ethan spoke again. You don't understand. I can't just leave her. Why not? Another silence. Then Ethan lowered his voice. Because almost everything is tied to her name. Mrs. Cole looked shocked. What? Ethan rubbed his forehead. When I started the company, Nadia helped secure the original investment through her father's trust lawyer. The legal structure connected part ownership to her assets after marriage. Mrs. Cole's face darkened. So the company belongs to her? Partially. Vanessa suddenly stepped into the room quietly. Then make her sign everything over. Nadia's entire body froze outside the door. Tears filled her eyes instantly. That was the moment she finally understood the truth. Ethan had never stayed because he loved her. He stayed because he needed her. Inside the room, Mrs. Cole spoke again. You should have fixed this years ago. Vanessa crossed her arms. She's pregnant now. That complicates things. Ethan looked frustrated. I know. Then stop hesitating. Vanessa whispered while touching his chest. Choose the life you really want. Nadia covered her mouth to stop herself from crying out loud. Her baby kicked softly inside her stomach as if sensing her pain. She quietly walked away before they could see her. That night, she sat alone inside the nursery she had been decorating for weeks. Tiny baby clothes surrounded her. A small crib stood near the window. Nadia held one of the baby blankets while tears rolled endlessly down her cheeks. Then Ethan entered the room. For a second, guilt crossed his face seeing her cry. Nadia. She looked at him silently. How long? She asked weakly. Ethan's expression changed immediately. What are you talking about? You and Vanessa. Silence. Pure silence. Nadia's voice broke. She was my best friend. Ethan looked away. It's complicated. Nadia laughed painfully through tears. No, it's cruel. Nadia, listen. Did you ever love me? That question hit harder than anything else. Ethan hesitated, and that hesitation destroyed her completely. Because sometimes silence tells the truth faster than words ever can. If you've made it this far, comment below. What would you do if you were Nadia? And don't forget to subscribe because the revenge in the next part will completely destroy Ethan's world. Nadia stared at Ethan with tears running silently down her face. But instead of apologizing, Ethan looked tired, almost annoyed. Nadia, he said quietly, you're emotional right now. She laughed in disbelief. Emotional? She repeated painfully. You cheated on me with my best friend while I'm carrying your child. Ethan rubbed his forehead. You don't understand the pressure I'm under. No, Nadia whispered. I understand perfectly now. For the first time since their marriage, she truly saw him. Not the struggling man she fell in love with. Not the dreamer she sacrificed for. But a weak man who loved comfort more than loyalty. Ethan stepped closer. I never wanted to hurt you. But you did. Silence filled the nursery. Then Nadia asked the one question that terrified her most. Were you planning to leave me after the baby was born? Ethan hesitated again. That hesitation was enough. Nadia slowly nodded while crying. I see. Days later, inside the hospital room, Nadia continued staring at the television, replaying Ethan and Vanessa's wedding. Guests clapped happily while Ethan kissed another woman. Meanwhile, his legal wife lay bleeding in a hospital bed. Nadia broke down completely. How could he do this to me? She sobbed while holding her baby close. How could he do this while I was dying? Nurse Kiera looked heartbroken. You need to rest. But Nadia slowly wiped her tears. Then something inside her changed. The sadness in her eyes slowly became stillness. Cold stillness. Dr. Elena entered quietly holding medical files. You're lucky to be alive, she said gently. You lost a dangerous amount of blood. Nadia looked at her newborn son sleeping peacefully. Then she asked softly, if I had died tonight, would my husband have even cared? Neither doctor nor nurse answered. Because the truth was obvious. Nadia slowly looked back toward the television. Vanessa smiling. Ethan laughing. Champagne pouring. Like she never existed. Then Nadia whispered something shocking. Tell them I died. Dr. Elena frowned immediately. What? Please, Nadia said calmly. Let everyone believe I'm dead. Nadia, that's not a decision you make overnight. They already buried me in their hearts long ago. Kiera looked emotional. But your family? I have no one, Nadia interrupted softly. Then she looked at her son again. But him? He deserves peace. Dr. Elena sat beside her carefully. What exactly are you planning? Nadia's eyes slowly hardened. The truth. The next morning, Ethan returned to the hospital wearing sunglasses and an expensive coat. Vanessa waited inside the car outside. Ethan approached the front desk casually. I'm here for Nadia Cole. The nurse behind the desk looked uncomfortable. I'm sorry, sir. Ethan frowned. What? There were complications after surgery. His stomach tightened. What complications? The nurse lowered her eyes sadly. She didn't survive. For a moment, Ethan froze completely. Not from heartbreak. From shock. She's dead. The nurse nodded softly. We're very sorry. Ethan stood speechless, then slowly looked down at the floor. A strange mixture of guilt and relief crossed his face. And the baby? He asked quietly. The baby survived. Ethan swallowed hard. Then after several seconds, he nodded once. I understand. No tears. No breakdown. Nothing. Outside the hospital, Vanessa immediately searched his face. Well, Ethan got inside the car slowly. She's gone. Vanessa stared at him silently, then finally exhaled deeply. It's over. Meanwhile upstairs, Nadia secretly watched from behind the hospital curtains while holding her newborn son. And for the first time in years, she stopped crying. 5 years later, the massive Cole Corporation building towered over downtown like an empire. But inside Ethan's office, chaos had taken over. We're losing investors, one executive warned nervously. Another added. 3 accounts were frozen this morning. Ethan slammed documents onto the table angrily. How is this happening? Meanwhile at home, Vanessa screamed at staff members while shopping bags covered the living room. We can't cancel the Monaco trip. Mrs. Cole looked exhausted. Money is disappearing faster than it's coming in. Vanessa scoffed. That's Ethan's problem. Their marriage had become toxic long ago. No love. Constant fighting. Constant greed. And Ethan was miserable. Everywhere he looked reminded him of Nadia. The way she smiled. The way she believed in him. the way she loved without conditions. But it was too late. Far too late. Across town, a black luxury car stopped outside a modern company building. A little boy smiled while looking out the window. Mom, this building is huge. Nadia smiled softly. Do you like it? It looks like a castle. She laughed quietly before fixing his tie. You ready? The little boy nodded confidently. Together, they stepped out of the car. Elegant, calm, powerful, not broken anymore. Inside the boardroom of Cole Corporation, investors argued loudly until the doors suddenly opened. Everyone turned, and Ethan's entire body froze. Nadia walked inside holding her son's hand. Alive. Ethan's face lost all color instantly. Nadia? Vanessa gasped loudly. Mrs. Cole nearly collapsed into her chair. That's impossible. Nadia looked directly at them calmly. No anger. No tears. Only power. The company lawyer stood up immediately. Now that everyone is here, we can begin. Ethan slowly stood. What is this? The lawyer adjusted his glasses carefully. Mrs. Nadia Cole never transferred her ownership rights connected to the original company formation. Silence filled the room. The lawyer continued. Which means legally, she remains majority shareholder. Vanessa looked horrified. What? The lawyer nodded. And because Ethan Cole remarried while legally still married to Mrs. Nadia Cole. He paused. That marriage is invalid. Vanessa's face turned pale. No, that's impossible. Mrs. Cole stood up shaking. What are you saying? I'm saying, the lawyer answered calmly, that most assets purchased under the second marriage are now under legal investigation. Ethan stared at Nadia desperately. You planned this. Nadia finally spoke. No, Ethan. You planned this the moment you betrayed me. Vanessa panicked immediately. You can't do this to us. Nadia slowly looked at her former best friend. You wore white at my funeral while I was still breathing. Vanessa went speechless. The lawyer continued listing damages. Frozen accounts. Fraud investigations. Asset seizure. Breach of marital law. Everything collapsed in minutes. Everything. Ethan stepped toward Nadia desperately. Please, let's talk privately. Nadia nodded once. They walked into his office together. The same office she once helped him build from nothing. Ethan looked broken now. I made mistakes. Nadia stared at him coldly. Mistakes are accidents. You made choices. Ethan's eyes filled with regret. I thought money would make me happy. And did it? Silence. He looked down. No. For the first time in years, Ethan finally cried. Real tears. I lost everything. Nadia's voice remained calm. No, Ethan. You lost everything the moment you stopped valuing the people who truly loved you. Then she placed divorce papers on the table. I'm finally setting both of us free. Ethan looked shattered. And my son? Nadia softened slightly. He'll know who you are. Hope appeared briefly in Ethan's eyes. But he'll also know exactly what you did. That hope died instantly. Nadia turned and walked toward the door. Then Ethan whispered weakly, Did you ever hate me? Nadia paused. Without turning around, she answered softly, No, that's why your betrayal hurts so much. Then she walked away holding her son's hand while Ethan sat alone inside the empty office that once cost him the love of his life. And for the first time in his life, all the money in the world could not save him. If you enjoyed this emotional story, don't forget to like, subscribe, and comment below. Did Ethan deserve a second chance? Or did Nadia give him the perfect punishment?